So let's jump right into what's happening. So tell me what you're working on and what's going on.
Yeah, so we got kind of a couple different projects working on, which we're excited about. So one was the city council worked together on Wednesday, and we passed a limit to rent increases. So right now, if you live in a building that's rent controlled, or you live in a 1 to 4 family, and your owner doesn't live on site, we've created a protection until August 1st that the rent can't be raised. And the thinking here is, lots of renters are struggling with their income. Some landlords are able to access mortgage forbearance. So we just want to make sure, hey, look, you know what you're paying in your rent. At the bare minimum, it shouldn't be going up. So that's the first big one. And then the second one that we're working on is we have the JC Relief Fund. It's going to raise up to $3 million. And we think that the number one focus of that fund should be rent relief for people with low incomes and people who are left out of the federal stimulus. So people who didn't get that $1,200 check, who didn't get unemployment, who just literally, they lost their job, they have no other source of income. And that's really where we want to direct as much of that money as we can. Lots of folks struggling to pay rent, and then lots of people who own buildings and then struggling to pay mortgage and taxes and things
Right.
like that. So there's just a lot of pain out there. We don't have exact numbers as much as we'd like, but we've seen reports that in, say, New York, a third of renters didn't pay their rent in full in April, and I'd assume we saw something similar here in Jersey City. And for those folks, there aren't as many things as we'd like for them. So that's why we're trying to do everything that we can to help them.
Right. So what's like the next step in having this happen?
So a couple things. One, I think it's important to know is we did help work with the governor's office as well as his great staff and housing team to allow people to use their security deposits for rent. And that actually helps both the renters and the landlords. So if you just don't have any other source of income right now, that's your money. You put it in that security deposit.
Right.
You can ask your landlord and say, landlord, please, I want to credit my security deposit to my rent. And for the landlord, that's money that they otherwise probably wouldn't get. So that's a big thing. A second thing is for us to do everything we can to make sure the city chooses with this relief fund to direct it towards low-income renters. So there's more to come on that. We're going to be meeting with the committee that's been formed to decide where that money goes and really try to ask for this commitment. We think that it meets the values of the city, that we're going to do everything we can to help our renters who are struggling. So the city council did pass $1.5 million in grants for small businesses. So that's in addition to the $3 million. So that $1.5 million, the Jersey City Economic Development Corporation has made it available. So we can use some of this other $3 million to meet gaps, right? I think that's the key. If you've been left out of prior stimulus, this can help you. So of that $3 million, potentially additional amount could go to small businesses left out of that grant. But what I keep coming back to is those renters who, again, didn't get that federal stimulus, have zero eligibility for unemployment, and then where can they possibly get money to help them? And so I think this fund really can be a lifesaver for them.
And so you sent the letter to the mayor.
Yes.
What is it? Is it up to him to decide what's the deal?
So he has created a committee that's in charge of this relief fund. So the mayor, and I believe the people at last report were Councilwoman Prinzeri, Council President Waterman, Health Director Flanagan, and the Public Housing Director Vivian Brady Phillips, and the Economic Development Director Rosemary McFadden. So I believe that group is going to be deciding with the mayor, and I believe that knowing everyone on that group that this should fit right in with the values that they hold and what they want to see happen in Jersey City.
Awesome. Well, I hope it goes through because we all need it.
Yep.
What other so we're already on month 2 of this.
Yep.
What do you think are the biggest issues as a city council person that you're facing, and from what the community is saying is the biggest issue right now? Issues.
Yeah. I think the number one issue still is public health. It's how do we break the back of this virus, because we're not getting back to normal until people feel safe going about their daily life.
Right.
And so if we're going to reopen, how do we reopen following the data, following the guidance of doctors and public health officials? As businesses reopen, how do we ensure that they do so safely and protecting both employees and customers. Uh, and, I think that is still number one. It's number one on people's minds because I think, unfortunately, we were the epicenter. And so I don't know a single person here who doesn't know somebody who was lost during this, pandemic and this plague. So that is issue number one. And it's tough because, in addition to that, we get dozens of people who have been applying for unemployment and haven't, literally 8 weeks of applying for unemployment, haven't gotten any money yet, any response from the state. Yeah, the state they're just overwhelmed, and we do what we can to help them. Our state reps have been really helping here, Assemblyman Chiaravolati, McKnight, Mukherjee, but the state system is overwhelmed. But we're trying to help those folks. We got small businesses that are, talking to us about how they literally don't have the money to get through the next week. So it's been tough. It's been really, really tough. So I think my just assessment of where we're at is, we see positive signs in the cases going down, the hospitalization rates going down. That's all really, really good. And hopefully it shows to all of us all the sacrifices people have made, people who have shuttered their businesses, who have lost their income, who have lost relatives, that those sacrifices are making a difference, that fewer people are getting sick, fewer people are getting infected. And that's why we're doing all of this. And so I've been really, really impressed with just how much people in Jersey State have been willing to sacrifice for others. With that said, it's tough. I think we're at, you said, 2 months of this, and I see, nerves fraying a little bit on all fronts. So, I think the message is just to hang in there, to keep your head down and keep pushing forward, and that hopefully we get through this.
Do you have any inside info on what's next? Because we don't, we're just sitting and kind of waiting around, at this point.
No, because at this point it's really in the governor's hands.
Right.
That he's put out orders that are statewide at this point. So the city has a little bit of discretion, parks, farmers markets.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the parks opening and the farmers markets?
So parks makes a ton of sense to me, right? People need to keep their mental health up. They need to be able to, have some sort of exercise. As much as we see with the data, I don't think it shows that the risks of passing somebody just quickly in the park, they're low risk, yes, but very, very minimal. Most of the transmission seems to occur sustained contact, indoor setting, families, coworkers, public transport, those types of activities. So I think opening the parks makes a ton of sense. Farmers markets, I haven't seen the full plans yet. There obviously have to be very, very clear protocols in place because, you're transferring goods now to each other. And we obviously do that in supermarkets. So hopefully the farmers markets have all the same sanitizing equipment, the same sanitizing protocols, and are able to keep things safe. So I think we're going to see how it goes on Monday with the Grove Street. They're going to be first, and see how those safety protocols hold up, and then go from there. But I do think that as we reopen, we've got to think about parents, right? You can't expect people to go back to work without childcare options, without school, without camps. And I think in the rush to move things back, we have to have clear plans for that, or else it's, your parents and families. Yeah.
So I know Rolando Lavarro. I actually interviewed him last week, and we had talked about masks. And I know he's doing a petition to require people to wear masks when out and about. What is your take on the matter?
So I agree. We voted on it as a city council and we passed the resolution. It's non-binding, so it doesn't force people to wear masks. It's just our recommendation. And they've been doing that in Hoboken as well.
Right.
It's important to know that there are exemptions, right? Kids under 2 are not supposed to wear masks. There are people with health concerns, asthma and things like that. So if you do see someone outside not wearing a mask, there's a chance that there's a reason for that.
Right.
But overall, to me, it adds to safety.
Right.
For the vast majority of people, there's very little cost to doing so. So I go outside all the time with my mask. Occasionally I'll slip it down for a second to get a breath, but then a moment, put it right back on. And I really do think that everybody should be doing that because, it feels like unless you have a health issue, there's really no harm. And yes, and then I was
fighting with people on social media about wearing masks. Fighting with people. People were like, I can't run with a mask. I'm like, how privileged are you that you can say that? You know, in Israel, actually, if you're caught not wearing a mask in public, you get fined. You get fined, and everything's reopening now. Like the beaches have reopened, malls have reopened. There's only been like 50 new cases in the past couple of days. So I think just like certain things like that can help us get back to this
Yeah,
normal-ish, you know, if we just follow rules.
agreed. And it helps. We're all to a degree flying a little bit blind. We're not 100% sure what the science shows, but if there's an activity which could potentially lead to great benefit,
Right.
and there's almost no harm, again, except for the few people that have genuine exceptions, why not do it, right? Why not say we're all in this together? We're going to do it. We're going to make sure that we're safe.
Awesome. Anything else you're working on or you'd like people to know?
Sure. I mean, I just think that the first thing is, if you live anywhere in the city, but obviously especially downtown, you can always reach out to me for any concern because we can try to connect you. So, for example, unemployment. I know.
Yes, please reach out to James, not me.
I know, right? Exactly. That's correct. That is my job. It is not
Please
Lynn's.
do not reach out to me, please.
That is fine. Yes, and you can send them to me too. But really, if there's anything, health, like I obviously can't be a doctor, but questions about testing, questions about antibody tests that the city is putting out, I can try to answer those.
I recommend everybody go get tested for COVID and to do the antibodies.
I think that I would hold on that and just talk to your medical professionals.
Okay.
Obviously, if you call your doctor and your doctor says yes, go get tested. If you're coming back to work and your employer says go get tested, those are different things. With the antibody tests, my understanding is there's a whole slew of tests. Some are way more accurate than others. So again, I talk to a medical professional before you do it and just get their guidance. But yeah, everyone's going through a really tough time. My office is here to help. So just reach out if there's anything you think we can do. And even if it's not directly related to city government, we can at least try to connect you to the right folks.
Tell everyone to reach out to you.
Yeah, please. Please do.
Last question. Have you taken advantage of like being, at home in quarantine, picked up any hobbies or, online classes, working out, like anything like that?
I've picked up weight. I've gained weight. Eating. I've picked up eating unhealthy things. I mean, I think I speak for kind of most working parents where, my kids and my family have been quarantined. So I have gotten to spend wonderful time with my two daughters. They have been hysterical and funny and lovely and exhausting. So that has been my quarantine.
Good. Well, thank you so much for your time and stay safe.